In 2006, Finch takes Grace to a coffee shop. In 2012, Finch monitors Grace while walking bare. A payphone rings, delivering a coded message. He and Reese receive two new numbers: Sabrina and Daniel Drake, a wealthy couple behind a controversial publication targeting militia leader Wade Huggins. At the publishing house, Reese clones Daniel's phone as the couple arrives. Tension rises when their investor, Henry Brooks, proposes a $500 million buyout. Sabrina resists while Daniel is eager to sell. Meanwhile, Finch poses as a technician to gain access to their residence. Carter looks into Wade Huggins, who's in town leading protests against the Drakes. While surveilling separately, Reese stops a bomb from detonating under Sabrina's car. Finch notices Daniel taking the call from an unknown number, which turns out to be the bomber, Nestor Santiago, a friend of Daniel's. Investigating further, Finch finds Sabrina's will, giving Daniel full control of the company. At a book signing, a sniper targets Daniel, but Reese realizes the truth. Both Drakes hired hits on each other. Fusco, on a blind date, is recruited to monitor Sabrina. The Drakes' home loses power, and Finch alerts Fusco about a suspicious delivery at their office. Reese stops an intruder at their residence, but he escapes. Santiago flees from Sabrina's office after shooting at Fusco. Reese kidnaps both Drakes, locking them in a room, calling it marriage counseling. In 2006, Grace embarks on a birthday scavenger hunt set up by Finch, leading her to a private tour of the Guggenheim. In 2012, Reese sets up a forced dinner for the Drakes, where they confess their grievances. They realize their marriage collapsed after losing their baby. Just as they reconcile, hitmen attack. Reese eliminates the last attacker. By morning, the Drakes, now reconciled, are arrested. A man promises a cab driver, Furman Ordonez, $500 to wait for him. The new number belongs to Ordonez, who emptied his savings the day before. Finch hails a ride with him, planting surveillance equipment to review past fares. Simmons informs Quinn that Donnelly is getting too close and suggests recruiting new talent. Quinn insists they need to make peace with Elias. Simmons reaches out to Fusco about an upcoming meeting. Reese watches Ordonez sell his laptop, believing he carries his savings. Ordonez meets Mendoza at a restaurant, handing over $45,000 to smuggle his wife and son out of Cuba. Mendoza demands double, claiming the situation has worsened. Ordonez, desperate, reaches out to a former teammate now playing in New York, who gives him a little cash. Simmons strikes a deal with one of Elias' lieutenants. HR will rebuild in exchange for eliminating a key crime boss. Carter arrives at a crime scene of interest to the Secret Service. Agent Vickers identifies the victim as Pushkov, a Russian hacker. Later, Ordonez picks up a woman with an accent who asks about Pushkov. She makes a call in Russian, ordering someone to clean this up, and leaves. Reese intervenes before Ordonez gets into trouble. Ordonez reveals Pushkov left a laptop in his cab intended for the Estonian mob. Reese and Ordonez track the laptop to a store, but the owner has been murdered. Finch traces the laptop's online buyer. Ordonez shares that Mendoza helped him defect but later began extorting him. Vickers reveals Pushkov had access to drone pilot protocols, and Finch suspects he hacked Homeland Security, stealing thousands of traveler records valuable to terrorists. Finch arranges to buy the laptop online, but the location is empty except for a camera. The seller, seeing Reese through the feed, cancels the deal. Finch uses the camera signal to locate him. Reese is ambushed by Estonians, prompting Finch to handle the purchase himself. Carter and Vickers identify the Estonian woman as Irina, a wanted fugitive. Finch buys the laptop for $100,000, but is confronted by Irina and 4 armed men. Reese arrives and they fight their way out just before the police show up. Meanwhile, Fusco refuses to take part in a planned hit, but Simmons blackmails him with footage of him killing Davidson. Fusco attempts to warn the target, but the ambush still happens and his partner is killed. The surviving boss sends HR a defiant message. Reese and Finch give Ordonez the laptop, which he leverages with the Secret Service to bring his family to the U.S. Ordonez is reunited with his wife and son. Reese warns Carter to keep an eye on Fusco. Fusco delivers the message that Elias told HR to go to hell. Later, Carter receives an anonymous tip. Davidson was murdered by a fellow cop. A video plays of a woman declaring she's about to break the rules in a big way. Meanwhile, someone steals a motorcycle. The latest number is Abby Monroe, who recently worked for a charity aiding injured soldiers. Carter discusses a tip with Cal, a man she's dating, about a cop being involved in Davidson's murder. Cal has heard whispers about HR. Meanwhile, Donnelly pulls Carter aside, revealing the FBI is shifting focus to the man in the suit. He suspects Snow may have been recruited. Donnelly offers Carter a temporary role with the FBI, hinting at a permanent position. Carter updates Finch on the situation. Surveillance footage reveals Monroe riding a motorcycle. The same bike was seen at an explosives-related robbery days prior. Fusco looks into Cal while Finch investigates Monroe's former charity. He doubts she's involved in terrorism, given the nature of the case. Reese locates the building where Monroe and her companion have been hiding. Inside, he finds a picture of her younger brother, Josh. Finch discovers Monroe was fired for stealing, siphoning large sums from the charity, which provides loans to veterans. Reese watches a video Monroe recorded for her parents. Finch learns Monroe's troubles began after meeting Marine Shane Coleman, an explosives expert who lost an arm in service. Carter confirms Coleman was in severe financial distress. Reese catches up with Monroe. Coleman and Finch retrieve what they need, with Coleman helping Finch escape on his motorcycle. Reese questions Monroe about her video. She reveals Chappell is a thief, preying on struggling soldiers. Reese shares that he's a former soldier himself. Coleman calls Reese, who suggests they meet. Monroe explains that Chappell's loans have financially ruined countless veterans, and she intends to make things right. Finch gains access to the tracking system and Coleman's prosthetic arm, monitoring their movements. Carter tells Cal about Donnelly's FBI offer. Cal encourages her to accept. Shortly after, Quinn calls him. Fusco listens in on Quinn and Cal's conversation. Quinn inquires about a Russian mob issue. Simmons catches Fusco eavesdropping and warns him to back off. Finch tracks Monroe and Coleman to an investment bank where Chappell stashes his stolen money. Chappell orders his men to secure the vault and finish it. Donnelly informs Carter he's close to capturing the man in the suit, believing tracking his phone is key. SWAT teams stand by, waiting for Reese to use his device. Coleman urges Monroe to walk away, but she insists on staying to finish what they started. Reese arrives and demands the full story. We plan to return the stolen money to the veterans. Monroe tried to involve the DA, but got nowhere. Finch wants Reese to stop them, but Reese refuses to let another soldier take advantage of veterans. 2 minutes before the job is done, Finch warns Reese that the FBI is monitoring their line and tells him to leave. Reese hesitates. Inside the vault, they discover Chappell stole $30 million. Chappell's men arrive, leading to a shootout with Reese. Donnelly's team catches wind of the fight and rushes to the scene. Carter warns Fusco to give Reese a heads up. Meanwhile, Quinn and Simmons discuss the Russian mafia. Quinn sees it as a new revenue stream and orders Simmons to establish a connection. As the bank nears opening, Reese, Monroe, and Coleman are trapped in the basement. Finch arrives with ID badges. Once the bank opens, Carter arrives with the FBI. Finch provides Monroe and Coleman with cover identities and an escape plan. Reese tells Finch he won't make out, adding, "It's been fun." Finch promises Monroe and Coleman he'll drain Chappell's accounts and redistribute the funds to legitimate military charities. Carter, facing the FBI, claims not to recognize any of the men found in the basement, including Reese. Regardless, all are taken into custody. A subway train operator urgently reports an accident. At Rikers Island, Reese remains in custody alongside 2 other detainees. Special Agent Nicholas Donnelly has 72 hours to legally hold them, but assures Carter he's confident in identifying Reese. Meanwhile, Finch covertly delivers a phone to Reese's cell and calls him, assuring him that he'll walk free within the allotted time. Elsewhere, Finch poses as a substitute teacher, Mr. Swift, investigating a student named Caleb Phipps. Fusco informs him that Caleb's brother died in a subway accident 2 years prior. Finch reviews Caleb's academic records, discovering the student is secretly a genius concealing his intelligence. Fusco visits Caleb's mother, Lori Phipps, planning a webcam, while she discusses her financial struggles. He later reports to Finch that she appears to have an alcohol problem. Finch intervenes in a confrontation between Caleb and 2 school drug dealers. After the altercation, he finds a sheet of handwritten code. Fusco tails the 2 dealers to their supplier's location, identifying the new drug kingpin. Finch provides Carter with some materials. At a bar, she flirts with a target, drugs his drink, and collects a saliva sample once he passes out in his car. Finch notices Caleb leaving home late at night and follows, running into Fusco, who has been tracking drug money. To their shock, they realize Caleb is the new drug lord. The following day, Finch sees Caleb has an afternoon meeting with his supplier. He also notices Chris Beckner, an IT teacher, secretly copying Caleb's files. Returning Caleb's handwritten code, Finch offers a suggestion that Caleb finds intriguing. Fusco and Finch track Caleb to his meeting. He arrives to find his supplier shot, ambushed by Lorenzo, the school's former drug kingpin. Lorenzo demands Caleb repay all the money he made selling drugs to his customers by the next night, or else. Fusco believes the drug dealers Caleb unknowingly employed, Ronnie and Diego, are responsible for his brother's death. Meanwhile, he spots Beckner uploading Caleb's work and arranging a meeting with someone named Howard. Beckner meets Howard, a venture capitalist partner, falsely claiming Caleb's invention as his own, a revolutionary file compression method. Howard is prepared to offer him a hefty paycheck. Finch observes Caleb transferring funds into a trust. At the same time, Beckner schedules a meeting with Caleb, coinciding with Lorenzo's deadly ultimatum. Carter breaks into a lab and discreetly swaps out a DNA sample. Fusco interviews the transit officer from Caleb's brother's case. He learns the brothers had been drinking, daring each other to cross the tracks before the train arrived. Caleb wasn't lying. He was blaming himself. With Caleb missing, Finch heads to the school and confronts Beckner, accusing him of exploiting Caleb. However, Beckner reveals he's actually helping Caleb, who only requested a small advance. Beckner plans to ensure Caleb receives full credit and all the money. The project is called 17,621. Finch tracks Caleb to the subway and speaks to him about regret and moving forward. Caleb confesses the name 17,621 represents his brother's age at the time of his death. Finch urges him not to end his life, reminding him that the world and his mother need him. As a train approaches, Caleb chooses to step back rather than jump. Donnelly receives word that none of the detainees' DNA matches Reese. Suspicious, he orders the samples tested for tampering and calls Carter in. The next day at school, Caleb thanks Finch. Finch subtly hints that at Caleb's age, he himself accomplished one of the most infamous internet hacks in history. Meanwhile, the prison guard informs Reese he's about to be released. Just as he exits, Donnelly arrives, declaring the prisoners unlawful combatants and extending their detention. Carter arrives and Donnelly assigns her to interrogate the three men, starting with Reese. Special Agent Nicholas Donnelly observes Carter as she interrogates Reese. Meanwhile, Finch contacts Fusco, providing him with the name and address of a woman in Brooklyn who is about to be in danger. As Carter questions Reese, Donnelly runs a background check on his alias, John Warren. Reese maintains his cover flawlessly. Elsewhere, Pennsylvania 2 calls Hirsch, instructing him to eliminate a rogue operative. Hirsch immediately gets himself arrested by firing a gun into the air. Carter gains approval to remove the detainees' handcuffs to build trust. Donnelly, aware that their target has powerful backing, decides to verify Reese's supposed Wall Street employment. FBI agents arrive at Reese's workplace, finding an impeccable cover. Finch reminds Carter that she too is at risk. A flashback shows Reese and Kara Stanton working on a mission. Stanton reminds Reese that to survive in her line of work, he must embrace it. Back in the present, Carter asks Reese if he has ever killed anyone. He admits to having done so during military service in Bosnia. Donnelly presses for more details, but Reese's responses align perfectly with his records. While in the prison yard, Reese is escorted to meet Carl Elias. Another flashback reveals more of Reese and Stanton's violent missions. Elias, aware of Donnelly's search for the man in the suit, offers to assist. Reese asks him to send a picture of Hirsch, whom Reese has spotted in the yard, to Finch. Fusco recognizes Hirsch as a government operative. Finch hacks into Donnelly's earpiece, allowing him to communicate with Carter as she continues questioning Reese, who remains consistent in his fabricated biography. One of the suspects, Charles McAvoy, offers to trade information for immunity. Donnelly interrupts, offering a deal only if McAvoy can identify the real man in the suit. Finch triggers a fire alarm and instructs Carter to slip her phone into McAvoy's pocket. Outside, Finch calls McAvoy, revealing knowledge of his mercenary background and drained offshore accounts. Finch offers McAvoy a choice, work for him instead of the FBI. Meanwhile, Hirsch eliminates the fourth suspect, Ryan Kelly. McAvoy informs Donnelly that Reese is not the man in the suit. At that moment, Donnelly learns that Kelly has allegedly hanged himself, causing him to revoke McAvoy's deal. Now Donnelly is more convinced than ever that Reese is the suspect. A flashback reveals Stanton forcing Reese to make a life-altering decision, leading to them sharing a kiss. Donnelly orders Carter to break Reese. As she questions him, Finch fabricates records to validate his responses. For a final test, Donnelly has Reese released into the prison yard, planning to let an Aryan gang member attack him. Reese endures the assault, barely fighting back. Just as Hirsch approaches with a shiv, Elias intervenes with a whistle. Carter, outraged, confronts Donnelly for crossing the line. Carter interrogates the last suspect, pushing him until he attacks her. She identifies him as their man. Reese is released. As he reunites with Carter, Donnelly ambushes them with his gun drawn.
Congratulations, Carter. You just caught the man in the suit.
A flashback shows Reese being ordered by Mark Snow to eliminate Stanton after their final mission. Later, Stanton turns on Reese, revealing they both received the same kill order. A bomb detonates nearby as Reese flees. Finch calls Fusco, warning of an emergency. Payphones around Finch start ringing. The machine is giving him a code, directing him to Donnelly.
Agent Donnelly, stop your car.
Who is this?
I'm the partner of the man in your back seat. I have a source that tells me you're in grave danger, and trust me, my source is never...
It's Stanton. She walks over to Reese and injects him with a sedative as the episode ends. And there you have it, another set of episodes that would keep you wondering and curious for more. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon for upcoming recaps.